We are now on patch 13.17 and here is all the strongest comps in this patch and how to play them. This is the last patch in set 9 before going into 9.5 and that also means the last chance to hit the rank that you want before the soft reset. We are starting out by Ahri Sorcerer since this is the best performing comp there is right now. Here we're playing around Ahri with 3 Ionias, 3 Demacias and 4 Sorcerers. And this is the comp that you want to play if you're not hitting any emblems. We're looking for augments like this. And we want to play 1 mana items and 2 damage items on Ahri. 2 items on Lux, that will be a mana item and a damage item. It could also be any of the other classic items. The last item will be a radiant item from Demacia. And if you get 1 more damage item, you will also put that on Lux. And then you will have the radiant item on Jarvan instead. Tank item will go on Taric. And you can also put an extra one on Jarvan or else on Shen. Be aware of this is the comp that you want to play if you're not hitting the emblem. In most cases, you will play around Void units early in the game and have your damage and carry items on Malzahar. And at the point where you hit Ahri, you will move the items over and pivot into Sorceress. Legends you want to play could either be Earth for the emblems, or it could also be Azir for fast level 8. The other variation is the same one with the augments and the same one with the legends. Here you're just playing a little bit more around Lux, and you're also playing this comp if you're having the emblem, which you will put on Jarvan or Sona. Similar items on similar units. Just playing a little bit around Lux instead. Before you're having Ahri, you will put the item on Malzahar or Orianna, for example. And when you hit Ahri, you will move the items over to Ahri. Play this board without Ahri at level 7 and try to roll down and hit these units to 2-star. Go level 8 and move a unit in like Shen. And then you can in the end go over and pivot to Ahri as your main carry. Same as before, just with an emblem. The second best performing comp is Azir fast 9. It is super hard to hard force it, but are you getting to this point, you're probably having the strongest comp in the game. So this could be one of the options where you're playing with Azir with attack speed, Gwen with damage, and then you have Aatrox as your other carry. Noxus will be the tank, and you basically just take all Azir's augments, so you're getting to a fast level 9 and playing this board. Another option is to play around Bel'Veth and Gwen. And then you have your tank items on K'Sante, which also got buffed this patch. You can also put items on Shenna, Rageblade, and Sojourn is the best one, since she will buff the whole team with shield and attack speed. It doesn't really matter which of the comps that you choose or what you're hitting. You just have to get to level 9 and put in as many 5-cost units as possible. Shen and Gwen is some of the 2 units that you are looking out for playing no matter what. And the last common option is to play for Ahri. And here you're just putting 1 mana items and 2 damage items on Ahri. And you also want to have 2 Invokers online. And you also want to have 3 Ionias. If you for some reason are hitting an emblem, you could put it on Bel'Veth and take Karma out, and then you can play one of the other 5-cost units instead. Super solid and strong comp as well. One of the 3 comps, just playing Azir and get to this point. And also these are the best augments. You should probably not take the silver ones. Next up we have Gwen and Kalista comps, and here we are playing for 6 in the trade if we're getting the emblem. We can play around Gwen and Kalista 3. We can also again put items on Shenna, and Aatrox have started being popular putting items on as well. So this is more or less the full comp, and what you want to be aware of is that K'Sante have been doing really well with this emblem since it gives us mana and a shield buff, and also that he is just got buffed this patch. So augments that we're looking for is emblems, so Earth is probably the best one. Items on Kalista will be Rageblade plus 2 other damage items, and Gwen will more or less just have an healing items and 2 damage items. That is the main thing. If you're getting 6 in the trade, this is a super solid and strong comp. Another option is to play something like this. Here we're playing Shen and Kayle instead, and I've just put the main items on them. So if we get the emblem, we will put it on Shen in this one. You would also again put similar items as before. Gwen, a healing items and 2 damage items. Ionic Spark is super good combined when we are playing with Kayle as well. You will again put Rage Blade on Kalista and try to get 2 other damage items as well. Kai'Sa will go for a mana items and 2 damage items. Again, you could also put Rage Blade on Senna, and you could also put Bruiser items on Aatrox. Just another variation of 6 in the trait, where we're going for Shen and Kai'Sa instead. So the last and most common one is where we are not getting the emblem. Again, we still want to have the emblem, but if we are not getting it, we want to play 4 in each of the 2 traits. Here we again playing around Kalista, Gwen, but also Yasou. Tank items will go on Shen, and if possible, we will also have these 2 items on Shen once again. I think Yasou items should just be Bruiser items, and Edge of Night is super good for the reset. This is one of the most popular comps at the moment, and it also is a comp that you're looking for if you want to guarantee yourself to top 4. Are we getting ourselves an emblem for Ionia? We will play Aphelios Ionia, since Aphelios is probably the strongest AD unit at the moment. So we are playing around Aphelios, and if we get to the point where we can have Ahri as well, we will put AP items on her. Tank items will go on Shen. The classic items will be Sunfire Cape from the early game, a Spark for anti-magic resist, and Yasou will just be a damage / bruiser unit. You could also go for items like this. Aphelios will obviously have the emblem plus Rage Blade, and since we're not playing Freljord, we will also have this to shred armor. So specific augment, but also just having the emblem, and that is why Earth is probably the best one. Obviously, before we are finding Ahri, we have to play one of the other Ionia units. A good item holder for that could be Karma instead. So just having the items on Karma for 2-star, carrying us to the late game, and then move the items over to Ahri in the late game. If you want to cap out this board, you could play something like Bel'Veth with the emblem as well. You could also play something like Aatrox, and you could also play something like Heimerdinger. All of these units is quite strong, but Heimerdinger is one of the units that you can always play in almost any comps. And I also forgot to mention in the other comps how you are capping out those boards. And that is basically just going for level 9 when you have all the units that you need, and then just put in Heimerdinger for shredding or for anti-healing, whatever you need. Next up we have 7 Shurimas. Here is 8, and that is if we are getting the emblem. Else we're going for 7 Shurimas with Azir as the main carry. Secondary is that we're putting items on Noxus, and that will be pure tank items just to hold the front line. And as the third thing, we are getting Jarvan in, since we're getting 2 in Strategist, and we will also like to have a Sunfire Cape and also this item that we always put on Jarvan, since it makes us have a bigger chance of him casting twice. All the other items could just go on these 2 units, depending on if it is tank or damage items. So we're basically just looking for 7 in the trait at level 7, and then we are putting in the last units at level 8. If we're getting the emblem, we can have 7 in the trait before we are finding Cassandra, which makes this comp way easier to play. Strong and solid comp. Next up we have Void, who have been performing a little bit better than usually, and will probably be performing even better this time since it got a buff. Malzahar is one of the units that got a buff, and also Void in stage 4 and 5 have been buffed a little bit, and that is mainly the Baron. And combined with other units have been nerfed, this might be one of the stronger comps in this patch. So augments that we're looking for is again an emblem, since we can't get to this point without 8 in the trait. So we basically just play all the Void units plus Yasou for 2 challengers, and also the emblem holder. Items will mainly go on Kai'Sa and Bel'Veth, and other items could just be put on Rek'Sai and Kassadin. So the most important thing is that we are getting to level 8 and getting all the units in. We are really not prioritizing items on these units, but Bel'Veth and Kai'Sa can be the main carries, just depending on what you're hitting and what items you're getting yourself. Are we not getting 8 in the Void trait? We are just trying to play for top 4 the best we can. Then we are playing with 6 in the trait instead, and taking one of the weaker units out and playing around the same 2 units. Are we getting ourselves to level 9? We will obviously put in either Sion or Heimerdinger. You could also just put the emblem over to Heimerdinger if you're not hitting Yasou, at level 8 and just play your board like this. Next up we have Gunner and Piltover with Zeri. And again, this is one of the strongest comps last patch, and it also will be this time. Every single comp that's playing the duo of Taric and Shen together have been nerfed in some way, and that means indirectly other comps have been buffed. So basically we are playing this board if we're getting the Piltovers early in the game, and are we getting 3 of these units, we have a very good chance of getting top 4. So basically we are playing around Zeri, and we want to have 4 Gunners, and we also want to have 4 Sean. We want to have a Rageblade and a Last Whisper, and we have the Last Whisper since we don't have Freljord. If we get Freljord, we can also just skip this one and put in another item. Urgoth's best items will be Bloodthirster and 2 Titans, and if we're not getting that, we can just play another bruiser item like Edge of Night or Infinity Edge. Sejuani will just hold all the tank items, and once again, Earth is probably the one that we are playing for. If we're getting one of these emblems, we could either go for 6 in Zorn or just having an easier time to hit the Piltovers. Best mods for Zeri will probably be Bioware or Robotic Arm, and from the front line you will just pick any of these that are not used in the back line and put them on Urgoth. If you don't know how to play this, you will play the 3 Piltovers and do a massive lose streak all the way to stage 3-5. Then you will make your board stronger by going level 7 and do a roll down, win a round, and then your T-Hex will do a cash out for you. That will give you a massive spike, and then you will get your gold back up and go to level 8 and play the full board again, getting everyone to 2-star, and then go level 9 for full board where you can play Heimer or Cyan, and that is basically your win condition. Next up we have 6 challengers and 3 Ionias. Here we are playing around Yasou and also Kai'Sa and Kalista. Yasou will be the main carry since he fits in both of the traits. If we're getting another emblem again, we will put it on Gwen, and then we can either choose to play for 8 in the challengers, but we could also just skip one of the weaker units. In this case, we will go and take Samira out since Aurelia gives us the Ionia trait. So bruiser items on Yasou, Bloodthirster, Titans, +1. That could be Edge of Night. It could also be Infinity Edge, but just similar items like this. Kalista will, as always, have the Rageblade +2 damage items, and Kai'Sa is very good with Sojourn +2 damage items. Shen will be the main tank, and that will probably be a Sunfire Cape from early game +2 pure tank items. Are we getting an emblem that will go on Gwen, we can also itemize her with either AP or healing items. We could also go for bruiser items. Items could be something like this, but it could also be items like these or something combined. Are we getting to level 9, we will put in Aatrox, or we could also put in Heimerdinger. This comp is the most common comp in Challenger, and if you're getting yourself an emblem early in the game, you have a very strong comp to play for, and that will make sure that you're getting into top 4. One of the strongest and most popular comps in the whole set, Deadeye and Freljord Aphelios, where you're putting 2 Rageblades on Aphelios, you're having your bruiser items on Urgoth, tank items on Sejuani and Taric. You are in this case late in the set going for pumping up and probably playing Master Yi. You could also play Urgoth for one of the emblems. Freljord is super good, and you basically just roll at level 7 for this board without Lysandra. So it's the classic one, not gonna mention much else. Most important things is items on Aphelios and Urgoth. So Noxus might be doing a little bit of a comeback since some of the other nerfs. There is also an indirectly buff on the Assassins, and that means Ekko and Kata might do very well in this patch, but else it's just the common one. Playing 6 in Noxus as always. Are we getting an emblem? We could put it on Ekko, and else Ekko just wants similar items as Katarina. Go for level 7 and try to get these units to 3-star. You could also consider playing with Samira to 3-star if you're getting a lot of her, and then you can consider to put a blue buff on her as well. If we're getting a lot of Swain units, you could also go for 3-starring him, but these are the main ones. Are we getting late in the game? We can also put in Scion and take one of the weaker ones out. And you can of course also play Heimerdinger for the magic burn or for the shredding. Bastion have again got a little bit of a nerf, both in the trait with 4 and 6. This is not updated yet, but for these two, 6 in Bastions is still the same, so that is still very good. And that means you kinda have to have 6 in the trait. Cassandra got buffed, so that is a good thing for this comp, but the duo Shen and Taric got a little bit of a nerf, which makes this comp still playable. In the best case, we are also playing Vlad, but we kinda have to have 6 in the trait. And Emblem is very good, since we can hit 6 in the trait faster, and then we could also play something like a Gwen, and put the emblem on her and taking out one of the weaker units instead. Still a solid comp, but not as strong as before. The classic Demacia 3-star Garen with Gotta Go Fast. Here we are trying to get Garen to 3-star and playing 7 in Demacia. We are also playing 2 Juggernauts. That could be Aatrox, it could also be Noxus instead. If we don't find any of these in the early game, we could also play something like a Taric, but else these 3 units are the best ones combined with the 7 Demacias. You could again also play something like Gwen with an emblem if you get that one, and then take out something like Poppy and add in one of these units. 2 items on all your carry ones, since they will give the Demacia buff and also have the other Radiant item. Are we getting to level 9? Heimerdinger is probably the units that we want to put in, but we could also put any of the other 5-cost units in. Scion could be a good idea, but Heimerdinger is probably the best one in this case. Another new variation I've been seeing is that we are playing this board. We are basically playing for a lose streak with Vladimir, and here we want to pick up all the Demacia units early, going for full lose streak until stage 3-2, go level 6 and put in 5 in Demacia plus 1 unit. That could be something like this. And then we have a strong win streak since we're getting some buffs on these units. When we hit stage 3-2 and getting this board, we will have everyone to 2-star and we don't have to play Taric. I only showed these 2-star on Garen since we are not getting more than that. Kayle is super strong at 2-star as well. Then we just have a massive win streak and basically skipping level 7. When we get to level 8, we will play this full board. And do we get ourselves an emblem, we will put it on Gwen. And Gunblade and Deathcap is super strong on her as well, since she basically just gives herself tons of healing and the others healings as well. And if you don't know, when Gwen is casting, she will make herself stronger in the way of being more tanky, and that gives herself more time for Lux and Kayle to do all the damage. Basically, you don't have like one carry in this comp, but Gwen is probably the main one if you get the emblem, but else Kayle and Lux and Garen can all be the main carry. Get yourself tons of Radiant items. Try it out, you are almost never contested in this comp, especially when you're not going for a 3-star. Are we getting ourselves to level 9? We will just go for something like Aatrox. You will try to get to level 9 as soon as you have all the other units to 2-star. It is quite easy to play. You're just thinking all the Demacia units plus Gwen, and when you get to level 9, you will add in Aatrox. We are not getting out of set 9 without going over Karma, and Karma is of course one of the strongest comps at the moment. You have to remember that Taric and Shen got nerfed, but this comp is probably still gonna be one of the strongest one if you hit the right units. So are you hitting one of these augments, you are going for this comp. Always play 3 Ionias and then play as many Invokers as possible. Obviously we are of course not playing Ahri and Ryze in the start of the game, and that means we have to play another Invoker in the start, and that could be something like Cassiopea. And we will also need another Ionia units before we're hitting Ahri, and that could be something like Sets to give us a little bit more frontline. If possible, we will roll as much as we can at level 7 to hit Karma to 3-star, but else go level 8 and try to get the units that we need and get Karma to 3-star there. Items that we're going for Karma, in this case, this is probably the best one. A scaling item, a critting item, and a healing item. that also heals the front line. Tank item will go on Taric, but could also go on Shen. And else other items that have tankiness is going on Shen and Galio, but it could also be damage and mana items that go on Ahri. One of the other most popular comps is Azir Strategist, and here we want more Strategist if possible. Basically, we are playing this comp at level 7 without Teemo, and else we just want to have attack speed items on Azir, Rage Blade, and Static Shift is the best one. Then we're putting in something like a Gunblade, but it could also be a damage item. Lux will have 2 items that could be blue buff plus a damage item, and the last one will be a radiant items from Demacia. Nasus will have 3 tank items, and Jarvan will have 2 to 3 tank items, depending on if you're having an extra damage item that you put on Lux, or you have an extra tank items that you put on Jarvan. And again, since some of the other comps have been nerfed, this have indirectly got buffed, and it was already one of the most popular comps in Challenger last patch, so it's probably gonna be even more popular in this patch. So reroll Kayle have been doing quite well, so we kinda have to mention it. We are of course going for a 3-star Kayle, Poppy and Maokai, and we also want to have 3 Yodels in all the time, since we can get Poppy to 4-star. Just before hitting level 5, we will obviously try to roll a lot of these units. Don't roll all the way down and try to get the last bit of units that we need at level 5. When we do that, we will try to add in all the other units that we need. Before we're getting Heimerdinger, we will play something like Teemo instead, but else at the point where we find Heimerdinger, we take Teemo out and put in him. And else we just play all the 1-cost units first, put in the 2-cost units after, finding ourselves the 4-cost units, and in the end, 5-cost units. We want to get to level 9 with this comp, since Kayle is scaling at level 9. Also remember, the last items for Kayle will be a radiant item from Demacia. Obviously the best one will be Lee Sin. The last comp we haven't really seen yet, but might be one of the new comps in this patch. We did have a buff on the rogues, so if we are getting back to the old one, where we are playing piltovers, we might want to consider playing Ekko and Katarina, buffing them up and putting the common items as we have been seen before, and playing around these 2 units. You could also consider to buff them up even more with Lissandra. Put your tank items on Sejuani. If you have bruiser items, you can put them on Urgoth, but you would prioritize to get these 2 units to 3-star and put items on them. In some rare cases, this have already been working, but if the buff is as strong as it could be, this might end up being a super solid comp. To be honest, I'm not really sure yet, but let's see what happens. If you could use guides like this on each patch or specific guides for each comp, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in my next guide in set 9.5. Thanks for watching.